As we keep moving through the series on the four agreements, today we're going to talk about the third agreement. This one is don't make assumptions. And I find in my practice, this is a really tough thing to do in relationships, especially if you're following along and building from where we started with using your words impeccably to then not taking those words personally. Well, that flips right into this idea of not making assumptions. Our brains are wired for story. We want to have a beginning, a middle, and an end, and we try to make meaning out of the things that happen. This is especially true in relationship land. It is so easy to hear something or see an action and then take it personally and then flip over into making an assumption about what it means about your partner, about yourself, about your relationship, about your future success. There's so many ways that assumptions get in our way. So what we want to think about is how do we not automatically go to the worst case scenario? Sometimes the worst case scenario may be true. But what's really interesting is that there's a quote by Susan Jeffers that says 90% of the things we worry about actually never happen or aren't actually the case. When you think about how that might apply from a relationship perspective, I think it fits in really nicely with this idea of not making assumptions. One of the best things I can tell you to do if you're worried that you're making too many assumptions in your relationship is to actually start asking for clarification. Now, there's a way to do this that doesn't start an argument. For one thing, you could say, hey, look, I think I am misinterpreting something about what we're talking about. Can we circle back for a second? Can we go back to this thing you said or this action that you took? Or could you let me know if I am misinterpreting what it is that you mean by your words, by your actions? Communication is the key for relationship success. It just is. There's really no way around that. If we're not finding healthy ways to talk about what's on your mind, what do you need to know from your partner? Is it possible that you could be actually assuming a lot of wrong things that are getting in the way of your relationship connection? It's entirely possible. This is not to blame you or shame you. This is simply to say that if you find that on a regular basis things happen in your relationship dynamic, you react to them in an emotional way, and then you not only take it personally, but you make an assumption about what it means, I would suggest having a way to reset, having a way to come back and get on the same page with your partner so that you're not just letting your worst case scenarios take over. Because then what happens if you're taking something personally and making an assumption about what it means, your next set of actions and interactions are going to be based on potentially faulty information. And that's something that's important to make sure of. Are you actually reacting to what happened? Or are you reacting to the story that you're telling yourself about what it means? And this is not always an easy thing to figure out, so I don't want you to hold yourself to a standard of perfection. What we're talking about is laying the groundwork that's going to allow you and your partner to have a shared way of discussing things, especially when emotions get high or when miscommunications are happening. And in relationships, both of those things are possible on a pretty regular basis. So if you can start developing a way to check in and reset with each other, it's going to allow you to stop making those assumptions as well as not taking things personally. We are going to continue going through the four agreements next week, so I do hope you will tune back in. Let me know what questions you have about what it means to you to not make assumptions, and I would also be interested to hear how do assumptions get in the way in your relationship.